The alarm screamed through the concrete like a wounded animal. Red lights bled across the outer yard of Mega Prison, washing razor wire and guard towers in a cold, electric glow. Sirens echoed off the walls, multiplying until it sounded like the prison itself was panicking. At 5:42 a.m., before most of the city had even woken up, a body had been found in cell block D. By the time the first response team reached the tier, the inmates were already locked down, pressed against their bars, watching in silence. No shouting, no taunts, just eyes. Hundreds of them watching. The body belonged to Marcus Hale. Officially, Marcus Hale was inmate number 40,721, serving a 22-year sentence for armed robbery and aggravated assault. Unofficially, he was something else entirely, a fixer, a messenger, a man who knew how things really worked inside Mega Prison. And now he was dead. His body lay twisted on the concrete floor of the shell room, water still running, pooling around him like a dark mirror. No obvious wounds, no blood, just a look frozen on his face, eyes wide, mouth slightly open, as if he'd realized the truth a second too late. The guards shut off the water. The silence that followed was worse than the alarm. Mega Prison didn't panic easily. It was built not to. Located miles outside the city, surrounded by empty land and surveillance towers. Mega Prison was designed as a fortress. 7 housing blocks, 3 perimeter fences, motion sensors buried underground, cameras that never blinked. This place didn't just hold criminals, it studied them, controlled them, broke them down into routines and rules. Every day followed the same rhythm. Wake up count at 5 o'clock a.m., chow at 6 o'clock, work assignments by 7:30. Predictability was the weapon. Order was survival. Which meant Marcus Hale's death was a problem, because nothing about it fit the routine. Detective Eleanor Miles arrived just after sunrise. She'd worked homicides for 14 years and had learned one thing early on. Prisons lie. Not just the inmates, the walls, the reports, the silence. They all hid things. She stood at the entrance of cell block D, pulling on gloves as Warden Thomas Kessler briefed her in a low voice. No signs of forced entry, Kessler said. No cameras in the shower area. Privacy policy. Miles raised an eyebrow. Privacy in a maximum security prison. Kessler didn't smile. That policy predates me. Inside, the air smelled like disinfectant and damp concrete. Miles crouched near the body, careful not to step into the water. She scanned Hale's arms, neck, fingers. No ligature marks, she said. No bruising. Medical examiner says possible cardiac event, Kessler replied. Miles looked up slowly. A healthy 34-year-old with no history just drops dead in the shower. Kessler didn't answer. Miles stood and glanced around. Inmates were locked in their cells now. Faces half hidden behind steel bars. Some stared openly. Others pretended not to look. A few smiled. She stopped in front of one cell. Anyone see anything? She asked. The man inside leaned forward, voice calm. In here, people see everything. Question is who's still alive after. Miles walked away, but the words followed her. Marcus Hale hadn't been a nobody. Over the years, his name appeared again and again in internal reports, not as a suspect, but as a connection. Contraband phones, smuggled medication, information moving between blocks that were never supposed to communicate. He survived because he was useful, which made his death feel deliberate. By midday, rumors spread faster than official statements ever could. In the kitchen, Inmates whispered over trays of bland food, and the yard. Eyes tracked every movement. Guards tightened patrols. Doors slammed harder. Counts took longer. Survival inside mega prison depended on one thing: understanding the invisible rules. Rule 1: don't to anyone. Rule 2: don't talk to guards. Rule 3: don't attract attention. Marcus Hale had broken all three. Miles spent the afternoon digging through surveillance footage. The cameras didn't lie, but they also didn't tell the whole truth. She watched Hale enter the shower area alone at 5:19 a.m. She watched other inmates pass by. No one followed him. Then the footage glitched. Just 9 seconds. A static blur at 5:21 a.m. When the feed resumed, the hallway was empty again. Morales paused the video. Zoomed in. Enhanced. "Do that again," she said. The technician rewound it. Played it slower this time. For a split second, and the static, there was movement. A shadow where there shouldn't have been one. Too close to the camera. Too intentional. Someone had known where the blind spots were. That narrowed the list. Later that evening, Miles requested Hale's prison file. What she found surprised her. 6 months earlier, Hale had requested protective custody. The request had been denied. Reason: no credible threat identified. Miles closed the folder slowly. Protective custody wasn't something inmates asked for lightly. It mocked you, isolated you. Sometimes it killed you faster than staying in general population. So what had scared Marcus Hale? Enough to try. She turned the page. Attached to the request was a handwritten note, barely legible. Scanned into the system. If I disappear, it wasn't an accident. The cameras don't see everything. Ask about the North Service Tunnel. Morales felt a chill crawl up her spine. The North Service Tunnel was an old maintenance passage beneath the prison, officially sealed years ago. According to records, it was inaccessible. Useless. And yet. Miles looked up at the guard standing by the door. Who has access to the service tunnels? The guard hesitated. Maintenance. Some senior staff. A few trustees. Names. Miles said. The list was short. Too short. As lockdown was lifted that night. Mega prison returned to its routine on paper. Lights dimmed. Doors locked. Counts completed. But nothing felt normal anymore. Somewhere beneath the prison, behind concrete and steel, something had been moving freely, and Marcus Hale had seen it. When Miles finally authorized the tunnel inspection, a maintenance crew pried open a rusted access door that hadn't been touched in years. The hinges screamed as it gave way. The flashlight beams cut into the darkness and froze, because scrawled across the concrete wall, inside the tunnel, written in thick black marker, were 3 words that stopped everyone cold. We control the count. And beneath it, a fresh set of footprints leading deeper into the dark. The tunnel smelled like damp metal and old secrets. Detective Eleanor Morales stood at the edge of the darkness, flashlight trembling slightly in her hand. The words on the wall, "We control the count," were still wet enough to shine under the beam. Someone wanted that message seen. Someone confident enough to leave proof inside the most secure facility in the state. Seal the entrance, Warden Kessler ordered behind her. No one in or out of this block. Miles didn't look back. Her attention was fixed on the footprints leading away from the message. They were fresh, clean soles, not inmate-issued boots. "These aren't prisoners," she said quietly. Kessler swallowed. "You're saying staff. I'm saying someone who doesn't expect to be searched. Mega prison was built on control. Counts happened 6 times a day. Every inmate was accounted for. Every movement logged. That was the promise. That was the illusion. If someone controlled the count, they controlled reality. By the next morning, the prison was boiling under the surface. Inmates felt it first. Marcus Hale's death wasn't just a rumor anymore, it was a warning. In the yard, small groups clustered closer than usual, eyes darted, hands stayed hidden. Survival instincts kicked in, because when order cracks inside a prison, chaos doesn't rush in, it creeps. Miles began interviewing inmates who had known Hale. Most said nothing. Some said too much. One name kept surfacing, spoken softly like it might hear them. Jonah Reed. Reed was serving life without parole. Former accountant. White-collar crime turned violent when a federal witness vanished. Inside mega prison, Jonah Reed wasn't muscle. He was mind. Miles found him in the library, seated calmly at a table stacked with law books. He looked up before she spoke. "You're here about Marcus," Reed said. Miles didn't bother hiding her surprise. "Everyone says you're smart." Reed smiled faintly. "Smart people listen. Smarter people know when not to." "What was Hale involved in?" Miles asked. Reed closed his book. "The prison runs on trades, favors, silence. Marcus was a courier. He moved things the cameras couldn't." "Like what? Information?" Reed leaned closer. "And information is dangerous when it reaches the wrong ears." Miles studied his face. No fear, no guilt, just certainty. "You think he was killed for talking?" she asked. Reed shook his head. "No, he was killed for knowing." That night, Miles reviewed staff access logs. Something didn't add up. Two guards, Officer Liam Carter and Officer Ben Walsh, had logged overlapping shifts in different zones at the same time. Impossible under protocol. When she called Carter in for questioning, he looked exhausted. Dark circles under his eyes, hands shaking. "I didn't touch that inmate," Carter said quickly. "I swear, I didn't ask about touching," Miles replied. "I asked about access." Carter's jaw tightened. "You don't understand how things work in here. Help me," Miles said. "Before this gets worse." Carter leaned back, staring at the ceiling. "There's a system. Not official. It started small. Letting certain inmates clean restricted areas. Maintenance runs that never got logged. Everyone. Benefits. Everyone." Miles pressed. "Staff get paid. Inmates get protection. Order stays intact." "And Marcus Hale, he wanted out," Carter whispered. "He said the tunnels weren't just for moving things anymore." Miles felt her pulse quicken. "What were they for?" Carter looked at her. Fear finally breaking through. Moving people. Before Miles could ask another question, an alarm blared. Not a standard lockdown. This one was different. Code black. A full facility emergency. Monitors flickered to life across the control room. Cell Block F maximum security had reported an inmate missing during count. That didn't happen, ever. Miles ran. Boots thundered through hallways as steel doors slammed shut behind her. Guards shouted commands. Inmates yelled back. The prison roared awake. They reached Block F just as the count finished. One empty cell. Inmate name, Jonah Reed. Miles stared at the bars. "That's not possible." Warden Kessler's face had gone pale. "Reed never leaves this block." Miles turned slowly. "Unless someone lets him." The tunnels were searched immediately. Teams moved fast, flashlights slicing through darkness. Half a mile in, they found something worse than graffiti. A makeshift room. Beds. Food supplies. Burners. Maps of the prison, hand-drawn with precision. Schedules marked down to the minute. Red circles are on camera blind spots. This wasn't an escape route. It was a command center. Pinned to the wall was a list of names. Inmates. Guards. Staff. Some crossed out, some highlighted. At the bottom, written larger than the rest, Marcus Hale, a liability. Morals felt sick. This isn't corruption, she said softly. It's organization. A shadow moved at the far end of the tunnel. Freeze, a guard shouted. Gunfire echoed, warning shots slamming into concrete. Footsteps pounded away into the dark. The tunnel swallowed whoever was running. When the chase ended, all they found was a dropped radio. Prison issued. Back in the control room, chaos reigned. Phones rang non-stop. Supervisors shouted. Warden Kessler locked down the entire facility. Miles stood alone, staring at the monitors. Jonah Reed had vanished inside a prison designed to be inescapable, and Marcus Hale had tried to warn them. Then a junior officer approached, pale and shaking. "Detective, we just reviewed the last camera footage before Reed disappeared." Miles turned. "Show me." The screen played back the count. Guards moving cell to cell. Numbers called out. Heads counted. Then Miles saw it. Officer Ben Walsh, standing in front of Reed's cell, calling out the count. One present. The cell door was closed. The camera angle shifted slightly. For half a second, the reflection in the steel showed the truth. The cell was already empty. Walsh had lied, and someone had approved the count anyway. Miles exhaled slowly. Mega Prison wasn't losing control. It had already been taken, and Jonah Reed was no longer inmate. He was running the prison from the inside. Mega Prison went silent in a way Miles had never experienced. Not the usual controlled quiet, but a tense, breath-held stillness, like the building itself was listening. The governor's office demanded answers. Media helicopters circled overhead. Internal affairs descended on the facility. Every guard was searched. Every inmate recounted. Yet Jonah Reed remained gone, as if he had dissolved into the concrete. Miles knew better. Reed hadn't escaped. He'd evolved. In the days that followed, the prison ran but barely. Food deliveries arrived late. Power flickered in Block C twice. Doors jammed during morning count. Small failures, strategic ones, the kind that tested nerves. Someone was pulling strings. Miles reviewed the command center evidence again. The maps weren't just detailed, they were predictive. Reed knew where guards would be, not just where they had been. He understood patterns better than the system itself. Order isn't enforced here, Miles muttered to herself. It's negotiated. She called Officer Liam Carter back. "In? You said the system started small," she said. "Who started it?" Carter's eyes were hollow now. "Years ago, before Kessler, an old deputy warden. He believed inmates could police themselves with incentives, and Reed, he was the upgrade." Miles leaned forward. "Where is he now?" Carter hesitated, then whispered, still inside. That night, Miles walked the perimeter alone, staring up at the guard towers. Lights swept across the yard in perfect arcs, predictable arcs. She noticed something, then something she hadn't before. The towers never crossed their beams at the same time. A gap, tiny, brief, but enough. She requested blueprints of the facility's original construction. Supposedly inaccessible. Supposedly. Miles descended alone, badge tucked away. Weapon drawn but low. The air grew colder. The hum of electricity faded. At the end of the corridor was a steel door, newly reinforced. She knocked. A voice answered from the other side, calm and amused. "You're late, detective." The door slid open. Jonah Reed stood inside a room filled with monitors every block, every hallway, every blind spot. He looked cleaner than he ever had in a cell. In control. "You killed Marcus Hale," Morales said. Reed shook his head. "No. Marcus killed himself the moment he asked for protection. You ordered it. I allowed it." Morales stepped closer. "You don't run this place." Reed smiled. "I don't have to. I just make sure everyone believes I do." He gestured to the screens. Mega Prison was built to watch inmates. No one thought to watch the watchers. Morales raised her weapon. "It's over." Reed didn't flinch. "Is it?" The monitors changed. Live feeds showed guards standing down, gates unlocking, counts being adjusted. Reed leaned in. "If you asked me, this place collapses. Riots. Deaths. The system depends on me now." Morales felt the weight of it. He wasn't threatening her. He was stating a fact. Backup arrived moments later. Reed surrendered without resistance. Cameras flashed. Headlines exploded. The story was called historic. A mastermind unmasked. Corruption exposed. Mega Prison was secured. Reforms were announced. Staff replaced. Systems upgraded. Marcus Hale's death was ruled a homicide. Justice on paper. 3 months later. Morales sat at home when her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. Count completed. All present. Attached was a photo. A prison corridor. Empty. Stamped with today's date. Morales stared at the screen as understanding settled in. Jonah Reed hadn't built the system alone. He had taught it to survive without him. And somewhere, inside Mega Prison, the Count was being controlled by someone new. They thought the danger was behind bars, but the prison was still watching, still adapting, still counting. And if you think this story was intense, you're not ready for the next one.